In the world of technology, power isn't just measured in billions of dollars or factories that span across continents. True power lies in resources, the kind of resources that fuel innovation, shape global industries, and determine who dominates the future. And now, Africa, a continent long overlooked in the high-tech race, has just cracked a code so powerful that it could shake the balance between Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, and China, the most relentless technology powerhouse on Earth. The story begins with one simple truth: electric cars, smartphones, satellites, and even artificial intelligence all depend on one thing: minerals. Cobalt, lithium, nickel, graphite, and rare earth elements are the lifeblood of modern technology. Without them, Tesla cannot build its batteries, SpaceX cannot launch its rockets, and China cannot maintain its grip as the manufacturing giant of the 21st century. For years, Elon Musk and China have been locked in an unspoken rivalry, both racing to secure enough raw materials to guarantee their dominance in the electric future. But now, Africa has changed the game. Deep beneath the soils of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Zimbabwe, Namibia, and several other African nations lies a treasure trove of critical minerals. The world knew Africa was rich in resources, but few expected the continent to rise with such precision, strategy, and determination to control its own future. African nations have not only discovered vast untapped reserves but have also found a way to keep them within their borders, refusing to be exploited the way they were for centuries. And this time, instead of exporting raw materials cheaply, they are moving toward processing and refining them right at home. This is the breakthrough that Elon Musk never saw coming. Why does this matter so much? For decades, China mastered the art of resource control. While other nations were busy building companies, China quietly invested billions into African mines, securing a near monopoly on the cobalt and lithium supply chain. This gave Beijing a stranglehold on the world's clean energy future. If you wanted to build an electric car, you needed China. If you wanted a smartphone battery, you needed China. Even Elon Musk, with all his factories in America and Europe, still depended heavily on Chinese supply chains to keep Tesla running. But now, Africa is breaking free. In a stunning move, African governments are blocking the export of raw minerals, demanding that foreign companies build refineries and processing plants locally. Zimbabwe has banned the export of raw lithium. Namibia has done the same with unprocessed critical minerals. The Democratic Republic of Congo is tightening rules around cobalt exports. In other words, Africa is saying, if you want our resources, you must build industries here. For Elon Musk, this is both a crisis and an opportunity. Tesla desperately needs these minerals, but Musk cannot simply rely on China anymore. Political tensions between Washington and Beijing have reached dangerous levels, and relying on Chinese suppliers could cripple Tesla in the future. Yet building factories in Africa is no simple task. It requires billions of dollars, long-term commitments, and navigating governments that no longer want to be exploited. If Musk ignores Africa, Tesla could face shortages that slow production. If he invests, he must play by Africa's rules, and that means giving up the kind of control he's used to. China, however, is not staying silent. Beijing knows that Africa's awakening could weaken its grip on the mineral supply chain. Already, Chinese companies are rushing to cut deals, offering billions in loans, infrastructure projects, and partnerships to keep their dominance intact. But Africa is learning to negotiate smarter than ever before. Instead of selling off everything, leaders are forcing China to invest in local factories, roads, and power plants that actually benefit their nations. This is the code that Africa has cracked, no longer being the world's raw material warehouse, but transforming into a global hub for finished products. And this shift terrifies Elon Musk. Imagine a world where Tesla batteries are no longer made in Shanghai but instead in Harare, Kinshasa, or Windhoek. Imagine African nations building their own electric car brands powered by the very minerals Musk and China are fighting over. This is not just about resources, it's about independence, power, and who will lead the clean energy revolution. For the first time in history, Africa holds the cards. And both Musk and China are scrambling to play the game. The shockwaves from Africa's bold new strategy are already being felt across the global economy. For years, analysts assumed that Africa's natural wealth would always be extracted and shipped out, with little benefit left for the continent itself. But the tides have turned. Countries like Botswana, which once exported raw diamonds, showed the world that local beneficiation, the act of processing and refining resources before export, can transform an economy. Now, the same approach is spreading across Africa's critical minerals sector, and the stakes are exponentially higher. Elon Musk, once confident that Tesla's future was secure, now faces a storm he cannot ignore. Tesla's gigafactories depend on a steady stream of lithium, cobalt, and nickel. These are not optional ingredients, they are the very foundation of electric vehicle batteries. Without them, Musk's grand vision of a world free from fossil fuels collapses. He has already voiced concerns publicly, hinting at the dangers of supply chain disruptions. But behind closed doors, Musk knows that Africa's shift puts him in a position of dependence unlike anything Tesla has faced before. The irony is striking. For decades, Africa was portrayed as a continent in need of saving, dependent on Western or Chinese companies to extract value. Yet now, the richest man in the world, the man who sends rockets to Mars, suddenly finds himself dependent on Africa's decisions. And while Musk can move quickly, investing billions if needed, Africa's leaders have learned from the mistakes of the past. They are no longer rushing into deals that strip their nations of value. Instead, they are leveraging their resources for power, influence, and long-term growth. China, on the other hand, sees the writing on the wall. For years, it held a near monopoly on refining critical minerals, controlling as much as 70 to 80% of the global supply. Even minerals mined in Africa were shipped to Chinese refineries before being sold to the world. This dominance gave Beijing unmatched leverage in global trade. But with African nations demanding local processing, China risks losing that grip. Every new refinery built in Africa is one less dependency on China. And Beijing is desperate to stop this trend before it spreads. Already, competition on the ground in Africa is intensifying. In Zambia, Chinese companies are racing to secure copper and cobalt deals, while Western firms backed by the United States and Europe are making counteroffers. In Zimbabwe, Elon Musk's Tesla has reportedly explored partnerships, but Chinese firms backed by state financing offer massive infrastructure projects in return for access. Roads, hospitals, power plants. Beijing is using its full arsenal of economic diplomacy. Musk, by contrast, is forced to play a different game. He can't offer the same level of national infrastructure, but he can promise something just as valuable: access to the cutting-edge EV revolution, technology transfer, and long-term industrial partnerships. This is where Africa's breakthrough becomes truly powerful. By playing Musk and China against each other, Africa can extract maximum benefit. No longer is the continent forced to choose one partner, instead it can negotiate from a position of strength. Leaders are beginning to realize that their minerals are not just commodities, they are bargaining chips that can shape global alliances. Whoever secures Africa's resources secures the future of clean energy, electric vehicles, and even space technology. And it goes beyond cars. SpaceX, Musk's other empire, depends heavily on rare earths for rocket components, satellite technology, and advanced systems. China has long used its control of rare earths as a geopolitical weapon, threatening supply restrictions during trade disputes. If Africa emerges as an alternative supplier, Musk could bypass China's stranglehold, but again only if he plays by Africa's rules. The same minerals that power Tesla batteries could one day fuel humanity's journey to Mars, and that possibility lies under African soil. Yet the challenge for Musk is enormous. Africa is not a single country but a continent of 54 nations, each with its own politics, rivalries, and regulations. Corruption, instability, and competition complicate the landscape. Deals that look promising can collapse overnight due to political shifts. China has decades of experience navigating these complexities. Musk is just beginning to step into this arena. For him, every move carries risk, but doing nothing carries an even greater one. Meanwhile, African citizens are watching closely. For the first time, they see their leaders wielding resources as weapons of empowerment rather than symbols of exploitation. Young entrepreneurs dream of building local EV startups powered by Africa's own minerals. Universities are expanding programs in engineering, geology, and materials science to prepare a workforce ready to seize this moment. The narrative is changing. Africa is no longer the resource pit of the world. It is becoming the engine of the future. And while this transformation excites many, it terrifies others. The oil industry, already under pressure from the global shift toward renewables, sees Africa's rise as a direct threat. If Africa can supply enough minerals to accelerate EV adoption, the age of oil could end faster than expected. Musk himself wants that outcome, but the irony is clear. To achieve it, he must rely on Africa, a continent he cannot control, while competing against China, a nation that never plays fair. The question that lingers is simple: who will win this new battle? Musk with his vision and technology but limited political leverage? China with its deep pockets and global influence but a weakening grip on Africa's loyalty? Or Africa itself, rising as the unexpected winner of the 21st century, using its resources to finally command respect on the world stage? Take Zimbabwe, for example. For decades, its lithium reserves were quietly mined and shipped out with little benefit to the country itself. But in 2022, the government stunned the world by announcing a ban on the export of raw lithium. Overnight, this forced foreign companies to either invest in local processing plants or lose access altogether. Chinese firms scrambled, pouring money into building refining facilities, but the message was clear: Zimbabwe was no longer willing to be a raw material supermarket. For Elon Musk, this was a warning shot. If he wants Tesla to secure lithium for its next generation of batteries, he cannot just buy it cheaply anymore. He must invest in Zimbabwe itself, build local partnerships, and commit to long-term cooperation. Then there's the Democratic Republic of Congo, home to over 70% of the world's cobalt supply, a mineral so vital to lithium-ion batteries that it is often called blue gold. For years, China has dominated here, controlling most of the mining operations through massive state-backed investments. But now, the DRC government is tightening the rules, demanding fairer deals, local processing, and a bigger share of the profits for its people. Musk has repeatedly voiced concerns about cobalt dependency, even claiming Tesla might reduce its reliance on the metal. Yet the reality is, without Congo's cobalt, the EV revolution slows down dramatically. The DRC holds the cards, and Musk knows it. Meanwhile, Namibia is quietly positioning itself as a game changer. Its vast reserves of uranium make it a nuclear energy powerhouse, but now, discoveries of lithium and rare earth elements are putting it on the EV map. Namibia has already banned the export of unprocessed critical minerals, insisting that value addition must happen inside its borders. The government is also exploring partnerships with Europe and the United States, not just China. For Musk, Namibia could be a lifeline, a way to diversify Tesla's supply chain away from Chinese dependence. But once again, this requires commitment, infrastructure, and a willingness to build on African soil. South Africa, the most industrialized nation on the continent, adds another twist to the story. With its rich deposits of platinum and manganese, both critical for clean energy technologies, South Africa is investing in research to create its own battery supply chain. The idea that Africa could not only supply raw materials but also manufacture finished batteries is no longer a fantasy. Imagine a future where Tesla or even African car companies source entire battery packs directly from Johannesburg, cutting out Chinese refiners completely. And then there is Ghana, with its recent lithium discoveries, stepping boldly into the spotlight. Ghana has already announced that it will not allow a repeat of the resource curse that plagued so many African nations in the past. Instead of watching its wealth flow out, Ghana wants to ensure that local industries rise alongside global demand. It's a move that once again complicates Musk's supply chain but also gives him an opening. If he seizes it, Ghana could become a critical ally in his fight against Chinese dominance. China, of course, is not watching idly. In every one of these countries, Chinese firms are aggressively bidding for contracts, offering billions in loans, building roads and bridges, and even forgiving debts in exchange for access. This is Beijing's playbook, refined over decades, tie resource deals to infrastructure, creating long-term dependence. Musk cannot match this approach. $4 Tesla does not build highways or airports. But what he can offer is technology, branding, and a promise of shared innovation. African leaders know that having Tesla in their corner boosts their credibility and brings global attention. That kind of influence is harder for China to replicate. But Africa's leaders are now smarter negotiators than ever before. They are no longer choosing between Musk and China, they are balancing both, playing one against the other to maximize national gain. In Zambia, cobalt deals are being renegotiated. In Tanzania, rare earth projects are attracting interest from both East and West. In Nigeria, the push for local EV adoption could see African-made cars hitting the roads sooner than expected. All of this puts Elon Musk in a race against time. Tesla's demand for minerals is skyrocketing, with millions of cars planned each year. Battery technology is evolving, but no breakthrough has yet eliminated the need for Africa's critical resources. Every delay in securing these deals increases the risk that China will tighten its grip again. Musk knows that Africa could either be his salvation or his downfall. Meanwhile, young Africans are watching this drama unfold with excitement. For them, this isn't just about foreign companies coming in, it's about a chance to build their own future. African startups are emerging in the clean energy space, designing solar-powered vehicles, electric motorcycles, and even local battery companies. They see the same minerals Musk and China are fighting over, but instead of selling them off, they want to use them to fuel Africa's own industrial revolution. And that is what makes this moment historic. For the first time in modern history, Africa isn't just a background player in the global economy, it is the center stage. The decisions made in African capitals today could decide whether Tesla thrives, whether China keeps its dominance, or whether a new African era begins. Behind the scenes, governments are beginning to get involved. Washington is fully aware that Elon Musk is not just a businessman, he is a symbol of American innovation. Tesla, SpaceX, and Starlink all represent US leadership in technology, and allowing China to control Africa's resources would weaken that influence. That is why the United States is quietly backing efforts to secure critical mineral deals across Africa. Initiatives like the Minerals Security Partnership, involving the US, Europe, and allies, are designed to counter China's dominance. Musk may not be a diplomat, but his companies benefit directly from this geopolitical struggle. The message from Washington is clear: America wants to see Tesla succeed, but Africa holds the key. China, however, is doubling down. With decades of experience in Africa, Beijing knows every strategy, every loophole, every way to sway governments to its side. Massive infrastructure projects, highways, ports, railways are bundled into mining deals. African leaders are promised development in exchange for resources. In some cases, Chinese companies even build stadiums, parliament buildings, and hospitals, creating goodwill that goes beyond economics. For Elon Musk, competing with this model is nearly impossible. Tesla is powerful, but it is not a government. This means Musk must rely on partnerships, either through joint ventures with African companies or alliances backed by the US and Europe. And here lies Musk's greatest challenge: speed. China moves fast, often finalizing billion-dollar deals in months. Bureaucracy in the West, on the other hand, can delay projects for years. Musk, known for his impatience, understands that every delay gives China another victory. He needs to act decisively, and Africa knows it. This urgency gives African leaders leverage like never before. They can afford to wait, play rivals against each other, and demand better terms. At the same time, the African Union is pushing a new vision. Instead of allowing each country to negotiate alone, leaders are discussing ways to coordinate strategies across the continent. Imagine a unified African mineral policy, where cobalt from Congo, lithium from Zimbabwe, and rare earths from Tanzania are all managed under a continental framework. Such unity would transform Africa into a powerhouse, capable of negotiating with Elon Musk and China from a position of unmatched strength. And the world is watching closely. For Musk, the stakes could not be higher. Tesla's mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy depends on batteries. Without African minerals, production slows, costs rise, and competitors gain ground. Companies in Europe, like Volkswagen and BMW, are also eyeing Africa, while Chinese EV giants like BYD already have supply deals locked in. If Tesla hesitates, it could lose the race not only against China but also against a new generation of rivals. But Musk has an advantage that even China fears: his brand. In Africa, Elon Musk is not just a businessman, he is a visionary. Starlink, his satellite internet project, is already transforming connectivity in remote villages, schools, and businesses across the continent. For millions of Africans, Musk represents opportunity and progress. That soft power is priceless. While China can build roads, Musk offers something just as powerful: a sense of belonging to the future. And this is where the story becomes even more interesting. Africa's young population, the youngest in the world, is not content with being consumers. They want to create, innovate, and lead. Many dream of working for Tesla, building EVs in Africa, or launching startups that compete with the giants. Some governments are already exploring partnerships that include training programs, scholarships, and technology transfers. If Musk embraces this vision, Tesla could build not just factories in Africa but ecosystems of talent that rival Silicon Valley. China sees this too, and it worries Beijing. Unlike Tesla, Chinese companies often import their own workers into Africa, limiting local job creation. This has sparked resentment in some nations, with citizens demanding more from their leaders. Musk, if he plays his cards right, could position Tesla as the company that truly empowers Africans, not just extracts from them. That would give him an edge that money alone cannot buy. Yet the path is not without danger. Political instability remains a risk, coups, corruption, and sudden policy changes can derail even the best deals. Africa's mineral wealth is a blessing, but it has also been a curse in the past, fueling conflicts and exploitation. For Musk, navigating this environment requires more than money. It requires diplomacy, patience, and trust building. And while he has conquered industries before, this challenge is different. This time he is not battling competitors, he is negotiating with entire nations. Still, the potential rewards are staggering. Imagine Tesla building a gigafactory in Africa powered by local solar and wind farms, producing millions of batteries using African minerals refined on African soil. Imagine African engineers designing next-generation EVs, exported worldwide with a label that reads "Made in Africa." This would not only secure Tesla's future but also rewrite the story of Africa's role in the global economy. And as this vision inches closer to reality, the tension rises. China is desperate to maintain control, Musk is racing to secure partnerships, and Africa is carefully balancing its choices. The world is witnessing a new kind of power struggle, one not fought with armies, but with lithium, cobalt, and rare earths. A battle for resources that will define the next century. As the spotlight on Africa grows brighter, new players are stepping into the arena. Russia, battered by sanctions and isolated from Western markets, has quietly turned to Africa as a lifeline. In exchange for mining rights, Moscow offers military assistance, political backing, and in some cases, direct security through private groups operating on the ground. While Elon Musk is focused on batteries, Russia is using its influence to secure uranium, cobalt, and gold minerals that can keep its economy afloat and its nuclear ambitions alive. This makes the African chessboard even more complicated because now leaders have another powerful ally to negotiate with. Europe, too, is waking up. For years, European automakers relied heavily on China's supply chains, but the pandemic and growing tensions exposed just how dangerous that dependency was. Now Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes are scrambling to secure deals directly with African nations. The European Union has announced billions in investment under its Global Gateway initiative, a direct counter to China's Belt and Road. The goal is clear: build stronger ties with Africa, ensure supply chains for Europe's EV industry, and prevent China or Musk from taking it all. Even the Middle East is making moves. Gulf nations, rich from decades of oil, are preparing for a post-oil world. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates are pouring money into African mining and energy projects. They know that whoever controls the minerals will control the next global energy system. Already, Saudi's public investment fund is eyeing partnerships in lithium and cobalt projects. If Musk hesitates, the Gulf states could claim a share of Africa's wealth, and perhaps use it to launch their own EV empires. This global scramble has created a rare moment in history. Africa is no longer being chased for charity or aid, but for power. Leaders who once had to beg for loans are now being courted by the world's most powerful nations and corporations. And they know it. Every negotiation, every deal, is being leveraged for maximum benefit. Roads, hospitals, schools, jobs, these are now non-negotiable parts of contracts. The days of cheap exploitation are fading fast. For Elon Musk, the challenge is monumental. On one hand, he faces China's vast network, Russia's opportunism, Europe's late but determined push, and the Middle East's deep pockets. On the other, he must navigate Africa's own ambitions, leaders determined to build industries, not just sell raw materials. Musk can no longer simply rely on Tesla's reputation or technological edge. He must prove that Tesla is not just a company that takes, but one that gives back. And while Musk is racing to secure deals, Africa is quietly preparing for a future where it no longer needs outsiders at all. Across the continent, new initiatives are emerging. In Rwanda, a growing tech ecosystem is experimenting with electric motorcycles and drone deliveries. In Kenya, solar-powered EV startups are already hitting the roads. In Nigeria, entrepreneurs are developing battery recycling systems to reclaim valuable minerals. These may seem small compared to Tesla's scale, but together they point to something bigger, an African clean tech revolution rising from within. China sees the danger in this. If Africa not only mines but also manufactures, it could cut Beijing out of the loop. That's why Chinese firms are aggressively signing long-term contracts, sometimes for 20 or 30 years, to lock in access. Musk, by contrast, prefers flexibility, but flexibility may not be enough in this new era. If he wants to compete, he will have to make bold, binding commitments. Meanwhile, African citizens are beginning to realize the power in their soil. Social movements are demanding transparency, pushing governments to reveal the details of mining contracts, and ensuring that profits don't just disappear into corruption. Communities want schools, hospitals, and jobs, not just empty promises. This public pressure makes it harder for foreign companies to exploit Africa quietly. And for Musk, this can be both a risk and an opportunity. If Tesla partners directly with communities, offering real benefits, it could build loyalty and trust that China struggles to achieve. But time is running out. Tesla's production goals for the next decade are massive, with millions of cars planned each year and energy storage systems to match. Each of these requires mountains of lithium, cobalt, nickel, and other critical minerals. Without Africa, the numbers simply don't add up. Delays mean shortages. Shortages mean lost market share. And lost market share means China, BYD, and other rivals take the lead. Africa knows this. Every new discovery, whether it's a lithium deposit in Mali, a cobalt reserve in Uganda, or rare earths in Tanzania, increases the continent's leverage. The world is addicted to these minerals, and Africa holds the supply. Musk may dream of Mars, but right now, his future on Earth depends on Africa. And as this battle unfolds, the question becomes more dramatic with each passing day. Will Musk secure Africa's trust before China tightens its grip again? Or will Africa use this once-in-a-century opportunity to rise above both, building its own path to global power? As negotiations intensify, whispers of secret deals are already spreading. Some reports suggest Tesla has quietly explored partnerships in Zimbabwe and Namibia, while Starlink's rapid expansion across Africa is seen as Musk's way of winning goodwill before any mining agreements are finalized. At the same time, African leaders are forming alliances to prevent any single foreign power, whether it's China, the US, or Tesla himself, from monopolizing their resources. The balance of power is shifting by the day, and every announcement, every handshake, every signed document sends ripples through the global market. But while Musk and China battle for dominance, something even more extraordinary is happening. Africa is beginning to imagine itself not as a supplier, but as a competitor. In Nigeria, startups are working on locally made EVs. In Kenya, electric motorcycle companies are already transforming urban transport. In South Africa, universities are researching next-generation battery technologies. Piece by piece, a future is taking shape, one where Africa doesn't just sell minerals, but builds cars, batteries, and technologies of its own. And this is what makes Elon Musk's crisis so unique. The richest man in the world is suddenly not just competing with China, but with an entire continent that has finally realized its power. For centuries, Africa was treated as a prize to be divided, a land stripped of value and left behind. But today, Africa is no longer the world's forgotten supplier, it is the world's future. For Musk, this means he must rethink everything. Tesla's destiny no longer lies in California or Shanghai alone. It lies in Africa's mines, Africa's factories, and Africa's people. If Musk embraces this, if he chooses partnership over exploitation, Tesla could secure its future and play a key role in Africa's rise. But if he hesitates, if he underestimates the determination of Africa's leaders, then Tesla risks being sidelined, outpaced by China, and overtaken by Africa itself. And for China, the warning is just as clear. Africa is not a pawn anymore. It is a king on the chessboard, and kings don't move for anyone. The conclusion is simple but world-shaking. The battle for the future of technology will not be decided in Silicon Valley, or in Beijing, or even in Europe's boardrooms. It will be decided in Africa. The minerals buried beneath its soil, the industries rising within its borders, and the choices of its people will shape the destiny of Elon Musk, China, and the entire global economy. The code has been cracked. Africa knows its worth. And the world will never be the same again. That's the dramatic conclusion, powerful enough to grip viewers till the end of your video.